very soon after Kyle Dubas was let go by the Toronto Maple Leafs, it became clear that former Calgary Flames GM Brad Treliving was the front runner to replace Dubas in Toronto. So will Treliving be the Leafs' next GM?
Well, I would say all signs, all indications suggest that that will be the case. So it is a developing story at the moment. And I expect that we'll hear more in terms of the specifics, making it official in the next couple of days, perhaps by the end of the week. But that is the read. I mean, it's a process that Brendan Shanahan had to get to. We identified Brad Treliving as a primary target very early in the process, headed by Shanahan and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it does appear that, in fact, Brad Treliving will be the man to replace Kyle Dubas.
Now, describe you mentioned the process, Dregs. Describe the process that Brendan Shanahan went through to get to this point. Because as you and the insiders have reported, lots of big names were also in the mix for this job.
Yeah, it was detailed and it was specific, but it had to be that way, Jay. I'll take you back to Brendan Shanahan's media availability, where some of the parameters he set forth were pretty specific, weren't they? He talked about, needing a general manager with a level of experience. Well, when you look across the board, some of the names that were speculated on turned out not to be real. That's not to say that they weren't qualified. Shanahan had a very specific process that he wanted to go through. Brad Treliving was very early in the pool. He was. Shanahan and Brad Treliving had a face-to-face discussion that more or less, in parts, went over 2.5 days. We know, as Pierre Lebrun reported earlier on Insider Trading, that Brendan Shanahan also talked to former Montreal Canadiens general manager Marc Bergevin via Zoom. So it's not like Shanahan had lengthy discussion with Brad Treliving and then closed the door. There were other candidates that were considered, but right from the get-go, it seemed like it was Brad Treliving's job to perhaps walk away from or to lose.
Okay, now, there's so much here to talk about, because from evaluating Sheldon Keefe now to spearheading the major contract extensions with Austin Matthews and William Nylander, I mean, this is a massive job that Treliving's about to take on, and he's got to get a lot of work done in a short period of time, doesn't he, Greg?
A lot of work to get done. It's a daunting task. Who's kidding who, especially if you look back to last summer, Jay, and everything that Brad Treliving went through then as general manager of the Calgary Flames, trying to negotiate an extension with Johnny Gaudreau that didn't happen. Gaudreau walks for free, and then Matthew Tkachuk wants out, and Matthew Tkachuk gets traded to the Florida Panthers, and what is a blockbuster between the Panthers and the Calgary Flames. Then you end this year, and Brad Treliving is done with the Calgary Flames. Well, that experience is going to bode well, I think, for him when they get all of the wrinkles ironed out here, and he's officially made the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Priority one has to be July 1st and Austin Matthews. Not getting Matthews signed by July 1st, but just understanding what his expectation is from a star player standpoint. You know that Mitch Marner's no-move trade, no-move clause also kicks in on July 1. So the players and their contracts are likely going to be priority one, but he does have to have a pretty quick evaluation of the coaching staff. Who's better available that can replace Sheldon Keefe, if that's the decision that is made by the new general manager and the brass of the Toronto Maple Leafs? Or do they just lean on the term remaining with Sheldon Keefe and hold on to him? Those questions have yet to be answered.
Dregs, you'll be back a little later because we talked about Calgary. They've got a new GM in Craig Conroy, but they do not have a coach yet. Dregs will have the latest on the coaching search. That'll be just a little bit later here on SportsCenter.